Hey, welcome to the Summit Host Hangout podcast where you'll learn how to plan, strategize, and launch your profitable online summit. No influencer status necessary. I'm your host, Krista from Summit in a Box, and I am so excited for what we are about to chat about here in episode 89. We have spent most of our 88 episodes before this point talking about what to do to stand out and profit before and during your summit. But today I brought in a special guest to help us stand out in attendee inboxes once the summit is over, which is so incredibly important with you and your attendees emailing all of these people. To give you some background information on our guest, she is the host of the Inbox Besties podcast, creator of the Love Your List 2.0 email marketing mega course, and is dangerously obsessed with helping ethical entrepreneurs carve out their slice of the interwebs by wooing the hearts and wallets of their small but mighty audiences, thanks to fun email marketing and easy yes mini offers. She's helped students achieve six-figure launches, but is just as excited when someone makes their first $9 sale. This guest is so full of heart and personality, and I think we're all ready to dive in. So let's go on ahead and chat with Kate Doster. Welcome, Kate. I'm so excited to have you and to talk about this.
I'm so excited to be here. I'm like, we need to get together. We need to get together and chat. I'm so excited to talk just about this and how to really sort of stand out, whether you are the host and what you're doing afterwards, or if you're going to be someone who is speaking on a summit, really being able to not have all of those new people get whiplash and unsubscribe from your list because they're getting so many. We're going to make you guys their favorite sender. Dun, dun, dun.
See, this is already a blast. I love this. Before we get into all that goodness, tell us a little bit about you and your business.
Sure. So like we already said in the intro, I'm Kate Doster of katedoster.com and host of the Inbox Besties podcast. And it is my sole goal in life to put money in the hands of good people so they can do good with it. So the people that are really attracted sort of my style, I like to think like, why make things boring? Like that's just straight up. Like I like to have fun with what I do. I'm very passionate about it. And I think that energy really sort of feeds off of people. And the people that I aspire to work with, like we talked about, are those ethical entrepreneurs, those ones that are, very sales averse. They really, really want to help. It's like, you also need to eat. So we need to make sure, especially, and this is the way I love to position it to my people, is that your people, regardless, they are going to spend money on whatever topic you talk about. And wouldn't you rather have them spend money with you, someone who genuinely cares about them, who treats them as a person and not a number, be able to help them? But if you don't tell them about these things in a way that's actually going to make sense to their brain, it's never going to work out. So that's really my whole thing. I'm one of those kids that has like a million degrees in everything because I just could not pick a subject. I am a former copywriter, which means I got paid to write words that made people slap buttons on the internet in particular. So with a W and not an R, so no legal stuff. So that is really where sort of my background started with this business. I know like most of our audience as well, they tend to be parents, some of them. And I got started with my business when I got fired for giving birth. It's like, you've got 3 days to get back or you're done, which back in 2012 was actually super legal because I hadn't been at that place for a year. So it's just like, I didn't want to go back after that. Like, absolutely not. So here we are, new baby. And it's just like, well, you always kind of wanted to be an entrepreneur, but ironically, I hated sales at the beginning of this. So I'm like, let's go for it. So we did.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So like, I'm just kind of dumbfounded after hearing that. Oh my goodness. Yeah. But I just have to say, I love the ethical entrepreneurs part. I even pulled that out in my outline to ask you about, and you kind of touched on it, but I just want to say, like, I love that. And that's kind of part of what I focus on with summits too, because we've all been to just disgusting summits where you're like, wow, this is gross. I'm going to go take a shower now after like going to 2 presentations, So I love that you focus on ethical entrepreneurs, the people who don't want to just be slimy and gross and salesy and all that good stuff. And I think that's going to serve us really well in this conversation too, because you're not going to stand out by just, hey, how you doing? Pitch, right after someone joins your list. So let's dive in to today's topic. I would love for you to start by telling us why this is so important. Why is it so important that we pay extra attention to standing out in people's inboxes once a summit is over, whether we are the host or a speaker of a summit?
Okay, so if you follow Chris's framework, obviously your summit is going to get a lot of signups, which means you yourself as the host are going to have a whole new slew of subscribers. And whether you're a guest or you have a lot of guests, hopefully they get theirs as well. And so we don't want people to sort of forget how they actually learned about us in the first place. And so what ends up happening, and I know that you teach this in your system as well, like the summit is great for list building. It's great for that cash injection. You can sell the replays, you can have coupon codes, you can do all this other stuff. But what are you going to do with those people afterwards? That is one of the big things. So again, when you follow the system, usually you're going to be doing a summit to grow this list of potential warm leads for a larger launch along the way. So what are you going to do in that interim, in that month or so, or whatever, span you feel that you need to have between your summit and your launch? That's super important because again, they just met you. They met 10 or 20, depending on your speakers. And if their freebies were cool, which I'm sure that they're going to be. And we can talk about the freebies in a second as well. How are you actually going to know? That's what's really, really important because all of us, regardless in our space, get into the Marie Kondoing our inboxes where it's like we sign up for everything. And then it's just like, yeah, no, I'm getting too many emails. So we want to make sure that even if they're in that like Marie Kondoing their inbox, that they're like, oh, but I like this person. But I love it when Krista emails because the thing that really affects open rates, which is one of those golden metrics everybody loves, and we can probably talk about that later, it's your name. So we need to make your name synonymous with good from the get-go. That's why it's so important because we want to be that person that they're still looking for after the summit. So when we do have our stuff, we can actually profit using the rest of your system.
Oh my goodness. So I already have a whole bunch of notes written down. This is going to be good. This is going to be good. Yeah. Everything you hit on is so incredibly right. And I do that. If I sign up for a summit, I'm like, oh, this person's cool. This person's cool. And I'm like, oh, this is a lot of people. So yes, exactly what you said. This is exactly why it's so important. And you might have touched on a couple of the things, but what do you see as the biggest mistakes that hosts and speakers make after a summit when it comes to emailing attendees?
I think the first biggest mistake is not, and you actually usually fix this, is not actually having an action plan for after. So one way that you are going to stand out, you don't necessarily have to create a brand new lead magnet or freebie. So that's the free gift that you give people to actually hop on your email list if you're the one speaking. If you're the one hosting as well, you want to make sure that you have an autoresponder sequence that's going to talk about your topic or actually mention the summit. So that way people can actually remember who you are and why they actually liked you. So it's really important, even again, if you're the summit host, is, in that first email, if somebody is signing up, whether it's after the whole summit's over, or perhaps you have your own presentation with your own freebie for the summit, that you remind people like, hey, so remember that chick that had like the pink hair, or remember the person that was like obsessed with cats? Like, you pick a little something out of there. You met me over on, again, whatever the name of the summit is. And we talked about this again, give them that freebie again, sort of remind them, make sure that you can definitely, I'm all about repurposing. So like you can use a welcome series or a funnel that you already have for different audiences, but make sure, especially in those first couple of ones, that you really zone in so that way they remember, oh, this is this person. This is why I actually liked them. You start infusing some of you into your emails, and naturally there's going to be people that go off. But if you can really hit it out of the park in those first couple emails, they'll keep you.
I love that. And it can be easy to do that. And you kind of said, at least in the first one or two emails, have a mention of the summit. And that doesn't mean you have to have all of these different email sequences. The way I usually do it is I have the main chunk of my email sequence as one, and then I have several email sequences that send out the first couple emails, and I just duplicate that for the different things I do. So those first couple emails mention whatever specific thing I was just a part of. And then after they're done with those two emails, they move into this other sequence that everybody goes into. So you don't have to always be duplicating and customizing every single email you send. It's just the first couple.
Exactly. And in those first couple, I know this is going to sound odd, you got to have a picture of your face, and not like your weird headshot photo or whatever your social media icon is. I'm talking about like get a Snapchat filter, get an Instagram filter, show your actual face, because chances are they might forget who you are until they actually look at you. So whether that is, you're talking about like say a situation with your kids, and so it's you playing with your kids and it's sort of in the mid email. If it's literally just at the bottom, kind of where they would have to unsubscribe and they're looking at your face smiling, I'm like, you know what I mean? It's a little gift. They're going to be like, oh, it was that person. Because again, we're going for that recognition. So make sure in those first couple emails, and that's great for any practice, really. really, but especially in a summit as the host as well, because they met a whole bunch of people you introduced them to, have your face in your first couple of emails. Don't get weirded out by it. Put your face in there.
That's a really good point. I actually don't do that. I'm going to do it now.
Put your face. Because again, treat people like people. We've all ran into that person in the store. We're like, oh crap, what's that person's name? What's that person? Right. And then like you have the other half of the rest of us introverts that are like, oh crap, that's somebody I went to high school with. And you're like trying to avoid
Run
them.
away. Yes.
And you're like, oh man, thank God I've got this mask on. Right? So you want to make sure that people can see your face. Like, oh yeah, I remember her now. That's what we're going for, whether you are the host or someone who speaks. Oh yeah, that person. Now I'll click on that link. I remember her.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Okay, you mentioned freebies. Can you go over what you see as freebies that convert best, mostly for speakers, I would say, because, the host already has the email addresses, but what are your thoughts on the freebies?
I think that you need to make sure that your freebie makes sense with your presentation, which I'm sure, you guys probably know, again, from following Krista, you want to make sure that it makes sense and that it's the next natural step. And so it's not like, oh, you're talking about, social media in general. And then it's like, and get my list of hashtags. Well, it would have made more sense if you had talked about Instagram or Instagram stories. So you want to make sure that it makes sense with what you are talking about. Another thing that sometimes my students will ask, they'll be like, oh, well, what we're talking about is the same thing, the gist of my freebie. That's okay. Then you say it like, we're going to go into my freebie and we're going to go into more detail about this, because not everyone, even though they should, are going to get the all access pass. So not everyone is going to be able to remember you, but for free, it's like, oh, here's this person, she's got this really great content, you're showing your face, whether they saw your video or not, and you're good to go. So you want to make sure that your freebie is the next best step and that it answers what we call the Sir Mix-a-Lot principle, which is a yeah, but, because just like Sir Mix-a-Lot, like big butts, so does your email list and so does your wallet and so does your subscribers. So if you're doing this glorious presentation, about how to have virtual summits, because Krista is like the best at them when she has them. But so she's doing one in somebody else's summit. Yeah, but might be okay. Like, but how do I actually pitch people? So she can decide that she wants to pull one of the templates out of a gajillion that she's got in her giant course to be able to give people. And that's when you would say, like, guys, I know that asking the people to actually be on your summit is the trickiest part. And so I'm going to give you this straight from my course. She's mentioning it. And this is how you get away from the ick factor, because she's telling you, and it should have the branding for my full-fledged course. You say the name, got the branding on the bottom, and you give it to them. And they're like, oh, how did she know I was thinking that? That's really what we want to go to for this freebie. So for some people who are really interested in speaking at summits, you might have to sort of get a new freebie, if you will, not every single time, but it's like, as you're sort of getting your talk done, like, you had Jessica on the show talking about, things like that. You want to make sure that it just makes sense to come after it.
I want to go redo all of the freebie pitches I've ever done in summits now. So thanks.
Right? And guess what's on the landing page somewhere? Probably a picture of yourself, even if it's a little bottom. And that one, I'll let you be the headshot. But because, we want to have our nice, clean landing pages. But at the bottom, it's like just a little picture of you. So like, oh yeah, it was that person.
Oh my gosh. This is so good. Okay. So we have our awesome freebie. People are going to sign up for it because it's awesome and related and the next step they need. Then tell us about what the right way is once we're showing up in their inboxes. You kind of talked about some mistakes. What are the things we should do after summit is over to start showing up, whether it's the host, speakers, or both?
Okay. So the first thing, and we sort of talked about this before, is we want to have those first couple of emails be very personal about the summit. We want to actually have the picture. I think where one of the worst things that can happen after a summit is they sign up for your freebie and then immediately they're in your newsletter, because they still probably don't know a lot about you. Even if you're the host, they might not know, even though you've repeatedly said, hey, this is sponsored by whatever my program is, or, I'm Kate Doster, I talk about email marketing. There's still going to be people who just know you because of the summit. So you need to make sure that you've actually crafted a couple of emails. I always tell people shoot for 3, but I like 5, depending on your emailing style. If you're one like, oh, I email constantly, a welcome series or even just sort of an indoctrination series can be sort of shorter. But if you don't email very regularly, then make it longer, because you know yourself. Self-awareness is super huge. So you're going to make sure there's a picture of you. You're going to reiterate the fact that you were in a summit. You're going to tell them about the freebie in that first email that they get from you, and you're going to tell about it in the second one. If you happen to give a free mini course or a couple days challenge, well, then that's built in because you're automatically going to be re-going in their inbox and telling them to go to this and telling them to go to this. You want to make sure that in that series that somewhere, whether you invite them to say the next step, say you actually do have a webinar that you want people to go to, or, you do have a big launch and say you want them to get on the VIP wait list. You always, of course, have to think of what's in it for them. But I personally think, and this, my students give me pushback on this, but then they're so glad when they actually do it, is some type of take a stand email. Like I call it like a rant one, a line in the sand. And I think that that is so important. So like if you're in the health and wellness space and you think that intermittent fasting is dumb, and you're like, this is the worst, then you're going to tell people in the email why you think it's the worst. Because being on your email list is a privilege, straight up. And we honestly only want the people that we can really help. Because we're ethical entrepreneurs, we don't want to waste anyone's time. So you want to make sure, damn, you're telling them like, yo, if this is your philosophy, this isn't it. Or it can be something that you're like, I am all about intermittent fasting. If you think it's dumb, like you don't have to be very confrontational, but you need to let them know where you stand on big issues. If you're in the B2B space, so business to business, I think that telling people, if you're going to sell them stuff, tell them right off the bat. Like I cannot tell you how many people reply back to my emails and they're like, and they purchased something. Let me be the caveat. They bought stuff and they're like, I can't believe that you tell me this, that you're going to sell me something. I'm like, of course. Like, why am I going to lie to you? Why? Like I know you know the drill because you've been in a 5-day funnel challenge before. No, just tell them. It's the first email, my welcome email that I send for all of my freebies. I straight up tell you I'm going to sell you stuff. Sometimes I even give you a link to go buy stuff. I'm like, this is it. So I put my line to my stand in my first email. I don't tell everyone that they have to do this, but like let them know what is coming. Let them know.
My goodness.
Right?
I love this all
so if you're
much.
going to do a launch in a month, be like, hey, so I know that we talked about this in the summit, and whether you're the host or you're the speaker, then, and again, make sure you're planning your timelines, right? Then like let them know, be like, hey, and we're going to start talking a lot about this. I'm going to be telling you about my signature offering that's helped A, B, and C do X and Y. If you're not into that, like click here and you can put a little tag, just Google your email service provider and do tagging, and you can send them to a sequence that isn't getting your launch sequence so they can stay on your email list. Be like, hey, if you're not down with any of this, then click right here. You'll stay on my list. You'll get my weekly newsletters when they happen. We'll be good to go. But since you signed up for this freebie, I know you're really passionate about getting that X, Y, and Z, so stay tuned. Treat people like people. That's it. Treat people like people.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love this so much. So, oh my goodness. So someone I've been learning from a lot lately has in our, like if we're speaking at a summit, at the end of our presentations, she's having us pitch our webinar, which then pitches our product. And like after hearing you talk about this, I'm like, ooh, this is like too soon. This is too much too soon. What are your thoughts on selling right away?
I think that I have no problem. I love me some webinars. So if your webinar is good, then who cares? Because you want to get as many people into it. So it's also a mindset thing, which makes Kate a lot different than any other person teaching email because I go deep into mindset because you have to. Like that's the only thing pitting people from not hitting send is their mindset. So if you make it crystal clear at the end of your presentation what's going on, I don't think people will matter much. And it's like, okay, since I know that you guys have been sitting through this, again, this sort of reiteration, this 30-minute presentation all about summits, I know that you're super excited about this. I have a completely free training where we talk about X, Y, and Z. And at the end, I'm going to give you a special opportunity to actually get into my course. There's no other shoe to drop because now they know it, right? Like you're not tricking anybody, you're telling them. And it's like, oh, okay, because you told them that what is going to happen.
I can even see that increasing. That would increase conversion rates, honestly. Oh my gosh. I love this.
Right? Like why would you hide it? Why would you hide the fact that you have something that can help people? Because we know, and this is a sales mindset coming out, like I would love to think that you're going to take all my action here today. I would love to think so. But we know when we put a $sign in front of somebody, they are more willing to take the action because they paid for it. That is why your Coach or Louis Vuitton or that one designer bag that you love so much has its dust bag and it's sitting in your closet. But the one you got from Target, applesauce pouch in there. I honestly don't know. At one point, my kids drew on mine. Like that's the difference between paying and not paying. You treat it with respect.
Yes.
So it's like, why wouldn't I? Now all of a sudden, ethical entrepreneurs, I'm flipping it on you. Now you're being the jerk. How dare you not give them an opportunity to be able to get better success?
Yeah.
How dare you?
Kate, this is awesome. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I love this. I feel like you basically told us, as long as you treat people like humans, it doesn't matter where you're doing your selling in this process, but you need to make the connection and treat them like real humans, let them know what to expect, and you're good. You're good.
Like that's it. Like we have a philosophy that we talk about in Love Your List. That's my paid course where when you're trying to get people to act, whether it's to buy, to sign up for webinar, all of that, a lot of people rely heavily on urgency. Countdown timers. You'll be a giant loser face if you don't do this, and the cops will find you with your face half eaten off because cats got to it first. Like they go heavily into that. That is salt, okay? That is the salt of your dish. If you try to feed someone a spoonful of salt, they're going to gag and it's awful. That's why it literally tastes bad in your mouth. But if what you're talking about is the transformation that people are going to get, your thought process behind it, your sheer excitement for them getting results, that's the French fry. That's the potato. That's the part they like. You add a little bit of urgency on top, that sprinkle of salt, and all of a sudden it's palatable and people are excited. And it's like, oh, I get to do this and I get it for $100 off, or and I get this bonus. It's not like, oh, I better do this so I get this bonus. It changes everything. So stop choking your people with salt. And I found that people that have to rely on that, they don't know their people well enough. They don't have their messaging down, or there's like a lack of confidence. Like there's a more underlining issue when that is that pressure point. And that's why we all hate sales. That's why you hate the used car salesman. Oh, well, I've got another couple coming to look for this car. Like that's why you hate him, because he's trying to shove a spoonful of salt down your face. And you're just like, here's the French fry. I'm going to make it better for you. Here you go.
Oh my goodness. See, I want to sign up for all your things right now. So this is awesome. I love it.
Right? I'm like, I'm not saying that all those other things, like, but like, it's the truth. Yep. It is the truth.
Oh, for sure. And like when you just add the sprinkle of salt, you're going to get less people coming back asking for refunds or being like, what did I buy yesterday again? Like, can you help me figure out why I did this even? Like so much better overall.
Right. And that's what I said. Like, that's what I said in the intro. Like, yeah, we've had students have well over $100,000 launches with the stuff that we talk about in the course. But I am so excited when somebody comes back and like, I made my first $9. I sold $24. Like, I couldn't even tell you when all of the virus and all that stuff was hitting in March. And I still had students have their first 10K months. I have people make their first sales. Like, I am just so excited to see them actually do it. It's like, yay! You guys are the best.
Oh, this is so good. I'm like really excited that there's a way to do this. We can stand out in people's inboxes. We can still sell, and we don't have to be gross about it. We just have to treat them like people. So what would you say is the biggest takeaway you'd like listeners to get from what we talked about today?
The biggest thing is, one, you don't need to hide your offers under a thinly veiled anything. You have spent time creating this product, whether it is a small product, whether it is something large or big or your signature offering, and you have made it to ultimately help people. So do not be afraid to tell them. What I want you to not do is just use exclamation point constantly, because that's like a crutch. Like that's like the big thing. Stop using them. The only time you're allowed to use them is when you're excited about a student's result, or when you're excited about what people are going to be able to like overcome. Like I never say when the cart's open to love your list, like, oh, love your list, cart's open, exclamation point, exclamation points. I don't care. I know that sounds so odd to say, and it's my baby and I love that community. I care about the people that are getting in there, that are actually emailing their list, that are feeling confident, that are making money. Because like I said, my mission in life is to put money in the hands of good people doing good. And it's all those Billy Broheems of the world. That's our antithesis, our enemy. We talk about that in the course too. All the Billy Broheems of the world, they're shameless. So of course your people are going to hear them more because they're shouting louder, because, well, they're jerks and they don't care. You care. Get yourself out there. Your people need you. Your people need you. That is probably Kate's take. Your people need you. Don't be afraid to put a weird picture of yourself. Take a stand and just treat people like people. That's it. Treat them like people. Stop using exclamation points.
So good. Pure gold. This is so fun. Oh my goodness. Okay. I know people are going to be like wanting to know more, because even I do. Where can they go to just learn more about you, get more of your fun personality, and see more about what you offer?
Awesome sauce. Well, the first and foremost, definitely go check out the podcast, Inbox Besties. Wherever you're listening to this bad boy, it's there. So just search for it, Inbox Besties. We call it Inbox Besties once you listen to an episode. So be one of those. The second thing is I do actually have a free training, which, spoiler alert, you'll be able to get into Love Your List, which we were just talking about for as well. Again, I do use some salt, so pay attention when you sign up. That's all I will warn you. Called The Littlest Big Profit, where we are going to go over the ABCs of profitable email marketing. So pulling it all together from attracting people to that bond portion, which is where we spend a lot of the training, to converting. Again, when you spend a lot of time with A and B, C becomes wicked easy. And then E, which is those energetics, which nobody else seems to be talking about because it's so huge. Like that is seriously what's in between your ears is what's holding you back. So we talk about all of that. You'll learn how you can actually get into Love Your List. If we're not doing a live launch at that current time, you can sneak right in and become a listie with us. We'd love to have you. So you can head on over to katedoster.com/Krista. So you guys have your own sweet page and you'll be able to sign up for that training as well.
Oh, so good. Thank you so much for being on today, Kate. I love this space so much. And thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. For show notes, all the links to Kate's resources and anything else we mentioned, head to summithosthangout.com/089. Now go out and take action to plan, strategize, and launch your profitable online summit.